Good morning. I am Maeve Knoth, and I have had the tremendous pleasure of being responsible for these kiddos in their Age of Reason program. For our Time for All Ages today, we're going to do what we teach at my school, rainbow breathing. And even though I went to elementary school in the late 60s and 70s, we didn't do mindfulness and meditation. We did a lot of other hippie things, but I wish we had, because now I know that when I pay attention to my breathing, it gets me ready for the next thing. So if I'm a little nervous because I'm going to have to come and speak in front of you, I can do some breathing and get myself ready. If I've just been running around outside and I need to come and sit down in the library and focus, that's the story of my life. At my school, if I do a little bit of breathing, then I'm ready for that. So we're going to do a little rainbow breathing. You can do breathing lots of different ways, but you have a nice arch here behind me, and if you'd like to point at it with your finger and make a rainbow, you may do that, or you can just make a rainbow just in front of yourself. We're going to take 5 breaths, and as you do, the arch one way you breathe in, and the arch the other way you breathe out slowly. So you can follow my arch and my breath, and we'll do 5. Ready? And now I can feel that my heart rate slowed down and I stopped being nervous about speaking in front of you. So we are ready now for the offering and offertory music.
We're now going to have the Age of Reason ceremony. And basically since September this year, when many of the children have left worship, they have gone to the back room, and our 2nd, 3rd, and 4th graders have been doing a program led by Maeve Knoth. Thank you, Maeve, for all your work with that. Called Age of Reason. And the reason we do that is one of the important aspects of religious communities to recognize those rites of passage. And most of us are familiar with the birth of a child. We also have child dedications, which I want to talk a little bit about later. And then we have marriages, we have memorial services for those passing, we have these rites of passage that we celebrate, but that 8, 9, 10-year-old, that 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade, it's a time where children go through a huge development where they go from fairly concrete thinking to more abstract creative thinking. And I had lunch with the Age of Reason children about a month ago, and I can reaffirm that creative thinking. They asked me some really, really good questions, one of which was, what's your idea of God? Give us a short answer. They obviously know their minister very well. But it was really fun, and they were also very good with riddles. There was a lot of good riddles. The jokes, I thought, needed a little bit of work, but the riddles were, the jokes were good too. But it was really a lot of fun to get to know. It was really a great opportunity for me to get to know them. But this is a program where we are an intergenerational community and we have relationships with one another. And I want to just say to the Age of Reason children and all of our children, you bring so much to this community. I mean, we often think that, children are our future, but you are very much our presence as well. So thank you all for participating, and I also want to thank all the parents who come every Sunday. I know sometimes it can be a struggle getting out the house with children, but thank you for bringing them, because we could not do this program without your support. We could not do this program without the enthusiastic participation of the children. So thank you all, and thank you for this community for supporting them.
Let me tell you a little bit more about what these children did. First, I need to say I'm extremely proud of them. They're thoughtful, they're curious, they had homework, for heaven's sake, for Sunday school, and they did it. So they should feel really good about it. During this class, they learned our 7 principles by heart, and they will share those with you. You heard that they had lunch with the minister. They interviewed some members of the church, asking questions about what was their experience at church as a child and what was their experience now in this church as adults. They made beads. Of the colors of the rainbow are the tool we use to memorize the 7 principles. So the first one starts with R. So red reminds them of that, and O, orange, reminds them of the word offer, and so on. So they made beads while we were talking as a meditation tool. And in fact, as I was thinking about this yesterday, I realized that those meditation, you learn them by heart, and your meditation tools will keep them by heart when you wear these beads around your neck. So I thought, wow, it's even a better symbol than I thought. They wrote credos. This is where they are. They're telling you their spiritual thinking at this time, what they think about their place in the world, what they believe about humans and our planet. As you hear them recite the credos, please know that these are very serious, thoughtful young people, and they're taking a risk by sharing their thoughts with you. So I'm going to ask you to listen respectfully and quietly, and we can, when all of them have finished their credos, absolutely we can celebrate with clapping, but through it I just want to remind you of that.
I would just like to say I am so proud of every one of you for what you shared. I could tell Amy was kind of speechless when you got up there, and I feel the same way. So I'm going to cheat. I'm going to go to a reading. This was written in the 1830s by William Ellery Channing, who's one of the great Unitarian ministers. And it couldn't help but, during the Age of Reason, for this reading to come up again and again, because it totally influenced not just Unitarian, but Christian religious education. It's called The Great End in Religious Instruction. The great end in religious instruction is not to stamp our minds upon the young, but to stir up their own. Not to make them see with our eyes, but to look inquiringly and steadily with their own. Not to give them a definite amount of knowledge, but to inspire a fervent love of truth. Not to form an outward regularity, but to touch inward springs. Not to bind them by incraticible, I don't know what that means. Not to bind them by prejudices to our particular sect or peculiar notions, but to prepare them for impartial, conscientious judging of whatever subjects may be offered to their decision. Not to burden the memory, but to quicken and strengthen the power of thought. Not to impose religion upon them in the form of arbitrary rules, but to awaken the conscience, the moral discernment. In a word, the great end of religious instruction is to awaken the soul, to excite and cherish the spiritual life. Those were written in the 1830s by William Ellery Channing. And you can hear that idea. It's not about dumping knowledge, not about convincing them that our sect is the right way. It's about inspiring their own curiosity, their own thought. And I think that was what was done wonderfully during the Age of Reason. And what we try and do here every Sunday, Age of Reason is just an example of that. As I mentioned earlier, we have rites of passages because we are an intergenerational community. And sometimes when we talk about intergenerational community, we have children and we have the adults. But that is not intergenerational community. Intergenerational community is when they connect with one another. And it's not just intergenerational communities when we have young adults. We have people from each decade, as Sarah does in her wonderful Wild and Precious Life service, where we have someone from each decade sharing about their experience. So that's what intergenerational community is, and the fact that we shared. And intergenerational community is not about the elders educating the youngsters, it's learning from one another. I can tell you, I learned a lot at my lunch with the Age of Reason children. And taking the guidance, I'm going to keep this short, but I do want to talk about the rites of passages we have. Because inspired by William Ellery Channing's words, our child dedications is something we have where children are dedicated into this community. And people think, well, it's our form of baptism. It's not our form of baptism. Baptism's got this idea of purification, and we do not see any need for that. What child dedication is we say we would like to raise this child with our values. They will choose their spiritual path when they become adults, but that's a choice they make as adults. Right now, we offer them, here's our guidance and values and principles and in beliefs that we think can be helpful in their life, and you heard the children embrace that when they spoke earlier. But child dedication is that the parents or the guardians will say, we will raise children with Unitarian Universalist values, and we as a community say, we will support you in raising children with those values. And then the children will decide when they become youths, when they become young adults, which path they want to follow. We hope it's Unitarian Universalism. If they choose another path, we hope they take those values that we promoted as they were growing up, we'll take them with them. And as I say, children are not just our future. They are very much a presence in our life. You bring an energy to every Sunday that you show up. You bring a great energy, whether it's here in worship, with all your questions during Time for All Ages, when I'm telling a story, when you go to your class, when you go to the social time and engage with one another and play. We want to get to know each of you, and we hope you want to get to know us, because through that our relationships are enhanced. And fundamentally in Unitarian Universalism, we hold the human relationship as sacred. The human relationship with one another is what we hold as sacred. And as I'll finish with the words of William Ellery Channing. In a word, the great end is to awaken the soul to excite and cherish the spiritual life.